Tuning into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television, special Arcane episode for Season 1, Episodes 7 through 9.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Wendy Hembrock.
I'm Brent Barrett.
And I'm Kevin Batchelder.
And tonight we continue our rewatch of Arcane Season 1. We're going to finish up with the final trilogy of episodes 7 through 9 as we get ready to anticipate Season 2. This is obviously the end of Season 1, so we're all spoilers all the time. We don't have any particular insight into what's coming in Season 2 other than our trailer, so we won't be spoiling anything for Season 2. If you are not familiar with our main show, Tuning into Sci-Fi TV, we have an accompanying Discord channel that you can come by and join. You can talk about Arcane, you can talk about any kind of TV that's genre, and really anything else. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. It's a great place to be and hang out and talk about everything. Like Wendy said, not just TV. You talk about music and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's a really cool community. It's a great way. Keep talking about stuff between podcasts and vidcasts and everything else.
Whatever you're nerdy for. So let's get talking about these episodes, which we're going to be talking about. Episode 7, The Boy Savior. Episode 8, Oil and Water. And Episode 9, The Monster You Created. First up, we're going to talk about some general thoughts about these 3 episodes and our rating for our rewatch. For me, this was a great culmination. I thought they paid off things that I had hoped would be paid off in terms of the Jinx and Vi relationship and where it was going to get back to or move to. We also had the overall dynamics between this probably pending war between Piltover and I'll call it Zaun and the main factions within that. So for me, it was a great culmination and payoff for pretty much every character. I also liked how we had some characters that had sort of been paired up as we'd gone through Season 1, and they sort of realigned some of those pairings as we got into, especially the final episode. I would give this 9 out of 10 Shark RPGs.
Excellent. I also think these episodes just continued to build. I mean, the show just built and built and built and built and built, and the final episodes really did pay off. The final, we'll get there, but the final bits of the last episode were just, oh my God, stuff. But as you said, there were just, the characters just got deeper and deeper and pairings you talked about, but some stuff Silco did. We'll talk about that later, but just blew my mind. I didn't expect that kind of thing. But I would give all of these in our rating system. I'm not going to go numbers, but in our rating system, probably like high watch it soon, and the last one, like I watch it now. It's just like amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you folks, and I think many of the folks who are listening, if they've watched it, just some incredible stuff, a ton of great payoffs, as you said, Wendy. You know, things that have been building, whether it's relationship or plot or setup for some stuff in Season 2, obviously, too. Now that you get to see this kind of stuff, certainly on a rewatch, you can kind of see some things that are probably going to become important things to see going forward, to wonder what it's going to all be. I got so many things highlighted and notes to talk about as far as favorite moments or scenes. I got way too much. You folks are going to have to kind of keep me in check, I think, especially that final episode and the final 16 minutes of it there. So, yeah, when we use our ratings on Tuning into Sci-Fi T, the Watch It Now tends to be the highest rating. For me, especially by the 9th episode, I mean, Watch It Now is so far in the rearview mirror because these are so much above that. It's because I've watched so many reactors, too, for that final episode, both several months ago when I first watched the show for the first time, and just this past weekend when I watched episode 9, I went down another rabbit hole for a couple hours watching a bunch of new reactors who've watched it in the last 6 months. So just awesome stuff.
Cool. Well, that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about is the awesome stuff, the highlights. I'm probably going to steal the one that everyone wants to talk about, which will be, I'll call it the Mad Tea Party, followed by the Shark RPG, or whatever it's called. Very cool effect and weapon, but for me, that was one of the key character moment culminations because Vi finally recognizes that Powder is not there anymore. She really sort of recognizes that Jinx is now Jinx, and she's not aware of how Singed has further altered her. So that'll be interesting to see in the future, because for me, it really is that almost door closing on whether or not you'll ever see Powder again. But it was horrible. It was horrible and chilling when she's telling Vi, just kill Caitlyn and we're good. I'll believe you. I'll trust you. And then when she also has Silco there, and he, basically gets killed by her crossfire tantrum, he still is loyal to her. And, she had written him off. She assumed that he was going to turn her in order to have his dream of Zahn. And it was really well done that basically, he had to make this horrible choice, and I did believe him. I did believe that he was not going to turn her in. So, and then we have, after that, the shot of, basically the start of the next war, essentially at the very end. So it went from the very personal of the two sisters to the bigger, what have you done to this larger truce that Silco had just negotiated with Jace, to now, okay, you've instigated, probably the next level of the war.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it, but kind of building up to that scene, one of the things I really loved was and we're all jumping to episode 9. There's a lot of good stuff, but the scene with Silco at Vander's statue, where he's drinking and then he pours one into the water fountain for Vander, I guess. But he's talking to him and talking about how he's so close, he can have what he wants, but why can't he give her up? And then I love his final line is there anything so undoing as a daughter? So we know at that point he's probably not going to give her up. And then, of course, like you said, he admits that to her as he's dying, after she accidentally shoots him. I mean, she goes nuts and starts shooting, but I don't think she meant to shoot him, but she did. So yeah, it was pretty great scene. I just love that scene at the statue, at the fountain.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a little more about the very ending here, but yeah, it's so many components to that, just so many of what it means and the decisions that Jinx. Some of them are decisions, some of them are just reactions. Shooting Silco, very much I think the reaction to hearing him cock the gun that she put down on the table out of protection for Vi. So, that's just some amazing stuff there. I mean, just to give us a change up and talk about another awesome scene in this set of 3 is the end of 7 with the whole showdown on the bridge between Echo and Jinx. I mean,
you stole mine. That was going to be my next one.
Yeah, I mean, visually, music tied in, importance to the story, playing into the possible, I don't know, you call it power or skill set or something that Echo has with time, the ability to rewind or go back from, to relive his path to, attacking her and getting the upper hand, but not being able to pull the trigger. I mean, even the little firefly bug things that Jinx created, that's one of those payoffs that on a rewatch and watching some of the, analysis videos, there's multiple scenes throughout the whole first season showing her working on those. And then we get the payoff with the whole lot of them coming in. And just, gosh, that one on rewatch is just something to behold.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I actually rewatched it a couple of times because you have that interesting framing of them as children playing the game and how it was unclear to me who was remembering that, if it was both of them or not. And everything about the animation style, the music, it was really uniquely done, that whole scene. And I wasn't sure who died after the explosion, but I was thrilled that Echo was still alive when he was.
Yeah, it took a while for the show to reveal that. It took Heimerdinger to go walking through the town, but yeah. Wendy, did you have another one?
Oh, I did. You just mentioned it, actually. Heimerdinger, when he finds Echo and then he takes him to the treehouse. And I loved how we now have a complete flip of, Heimerdinger went from being on the height of the council to nobody's interested in you down here to now he finds the secret clubhouse and he's joined the rebels.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's an interesting character. He's kind of taken a sideline towards the second part of the season, which I thought was kind of sad. Hopefully we'll get to see more of him in the next season. But thinking of some serious highlights, I had the Echo and Jinx fight on there, the two youngest ones fighting, just like Kevin brought up. I also, again, I'm a Vi Caitlyn shipper. I am not at all ashamed to admit that. So I loved the two opposite ends. Well, three if you think about it, but two definitely extremes of their budding relationship. The one with them lying down on Caitlyn's bed and talking, and then Caitlyn moves out to kind of comfort Vi, and she returns the action. But then later on, Vi telling Caitlyn, forget about her. We're oil and water, never meant to be. I love those two scenes and how they contrast. Of course, there's the stuff at the very end with the two of them too, but those two scenes were a nice contrast on their relationship. And I'm a big shipper, so I really kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah, another one that sticks out too was the Savika and Vi showdown. Kind of the sequel, the second one that occurred in the series, and the one that's in the final episode. Just a talk about a knockdown, drag out. I mean, such a great job on the visuals of the fight, and her just about being defeated, but then having the vision of Vander to kind of get her up the mat, and go back at it, and finally be able to knock out Savika. And just when we're thrilled for that, she just drops her head a bit at the bar, and who's behind her but Jinx knocking her out. So, just when you think you can take a deep breath, you get a little shock value.
Yeah. You were talking about Caitlyn and Vi. The thing that I found, was a little bit of a twist, when they team up to go to the council, and then they're not believed. And then we have this rift between them about what to do. And Vi is, I'm going back. It's part of that oil and water component. But you also have her teaming up with Jace then. And I actually really liked that whole sequence when they go back to the Undercity and they have their big fight. And she has those gloves, she has a new version of the gloves that were the Vander gloves, that she uses in that fight. And then, she's ready to do all that violence. Jace is not prepared for what it means. So he, when he kills that kid accidentally, he all of a sudden is like, yeah, you're right. This is not the way, but Vi is like, we're in it. This is where we're at. And that turns out to be, it turned out to be an important kid because it was one of Silco's lieutenant's children. So that, ratchets everything up.
Yeah. That scene where Vi finds the gauntlets, the mining gloves or gauntlets, was great. And at the end of the big fight, where he's like, give them back to me. And she's like, no. They're about to fight, and he's like, oh, whatever. That was great. I also, of course, you kind of mentioned the lieutenant who lost her son, but I love that little bit where, because I didn't know what was going to happen when her and the one with the middle jaw come in, thinking that they've convinced his right hand to help them overthrow Silco. And I really didn't. The first time I saw this, I did not know what was going to happen. And when she draws, her blade comes out, I'm like, oh no, she's going to do it. What's going to happen? And she swings and she kills the guy with the jaw. And I love her back and forth. I don't remember the exact line, but back and forth with Silco about him saying, why not? This guy, huh? She's like, yeah, he basically he wasn't good enough. But you better be careful. There'll be more coming along, sort of thing. So I thought that was interesting. And if he had continued on past the end of episode 9, I'm sure we might have seen some more attempts to overthrow him. But I mean, in a sense, Jinx is kind of taking his place. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, though. I mean, who's going to follow her?
Yeah, there's a power vacuum there. What's going to happen?
Yeah,
some of that we got a little bit of in the teasers and the trailers, but I guess it's going to be a very interesting thing to see where that goes.
Well, Savika's kind of a wild card, right? So she'd be one of the most likely candidates. And Jinx basically got some mostly true information from her the last time that they had a conversation. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can come to some truce kind of alliance or not, or if Savika is like, you're crazy, and what is Jinx's real plan, right? Silco had a vision. I don't know what Jinx's vision is going to be.
Burn it down.
Yeah, well, we saw that from the trailer, but I think
beyond the immediate, yes.
I think she had essential. Well, yeah, you're right. I was going to say when Silco talks to her, he talks to her as if they had a shared vision of that was kind of Vander's vision too, right? To have independence for this city.
Yeah.
But Jinx, I mean, yeah, she was along for the ride. But she was always doing her own thing, and the trailer kind of hints that that's not really her vision. Her vision's one city. That one goes down. That one burns. This one stays.
Kevin, did you have another highlight?
I could go on for hours, so no, let's...
I just have one last one.
Sure, go for it.
Which was Victor and Sky.
Right.
So we see...
yes.
So, Victor's dying. I'm very sympathetic towards Victor. Then he goes and gets shimmered with Singe, and he's now even more intertwined with the Hex Core because he puts more of his blood into it. He's in the middle of supercharging himself when Sky, the assistant, comes in, and she's been practicing her little speech about how great she thinks he is, and she really wants to help him out. And then she's horrified to see him getting sucked into the Hex Core, whatever's happening, and tries to save him and ends up getting disintegrated. And I don't understand enough about how the magic works in this, whether that's a good thing, like some of her went into the Hex Core and maybe that will be a good thing. But definitely some of his shimmer went into that thing too. And now he seems to be even more intertwined with it. So that was really interesting to me because I've been on the rewatch a lot more interested in paying attention to him as a character and what he's doing. So that's going to be interesting to see where we go in season 2.
Yeah, and I love it. I can't take credit for seeing all of it myself, but again, on the rewatch, picking up on some of it, and then from some of the other folks who do the deep analysis to talk about the parallels between when he was younger, when he was, by the little river trying to keep up with his little boat, but couldn't because of his leg. And then here in this thing, once he gets the shimmer and such, it's him by the docks, running at full speed, passing boats, and the parallels and the possible meaning of that. It's going to be interesting too with the whole hex core, the different variations that have been created to be used for whether it's Jinx's weapon or that. How much more that's going to get, like its own little, like almost like it became sentient. When it wanted to consume, once it interacted with living matter, whether it was the plants or Victor or taking Sky, or it's going to be interesting to see if that grows out of control, kind of like Heimerdinger has been telling everybody to worry about, in season 2.
It's interesting you mentioned sentience, though, Kevin, because it reminded that I took a note that when Vi and Savika were fighting, and one of the gauntlets had been broken, and she discarded it, and she was fighting with the other one, there was a moment where she didn't know that the gauntlet had a shield.
Mm-hmm.
And she's about to, the fatal blow is about to come and the shield pops up. Was there some sort of AI in there? Did it just, it couldn't have been a proximity thing, or else it would have put the shield up long ago with a lot of blows and attacks. So what was going on there? She didn't even know that was a thing. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's an excellent parallel point to make out. Yep, because she was a goner without that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how, I'll call them their interactions with their own particular version. So like Vi with her gauntlets, or Jace with his giant hammer, or Victor with all the stuff that, his leg and everything else, what it does to them, is it, as the episode is titled, The Monster You Created, there's lots of implications for what is the monster in that.
Oh yeah, several. That's what great storytelling.
They're all the monsters they've been creating.
Yeah. I'm reminded. My son, who does play League of Legends, and also has watched Arcane, informed me that most of the characters we run into in Arcane are not in the game. Vi and Jinx and Jace are, and it's interesting that Vi, not Vice, Vi with her gloves, those are her weapons in the game. Those gloves, those gauntlets, and the hammer that Jace has, that's his weapon in the game. So those are iconic for them in the game, which I thought was kind of cool.
And Kevin had shared a recap video, which I watched, and that recapper pointed out that the shark, I think he called it a bazooka or cannon or something. That's her weapon in the game too. Jinx's.
The minigun as well, right? I think she has both.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he was all excited when they showed up.
I think you were about to ask if we had any more. I did have one little one. It's not a big one, but Marcus, who is the corrupt enforcer who dies on the bridge. I kind of liked his moment because it resolved his dilemma. His family was being threatened by Silco unless he did this horrible thing. And he didn't want to do either one. He didn't want to lose his family. He didn't want to do this horrible thing. And in a sense, he got his release. But I like how he had a moment to try to tell, I think, who was he telling it to? Vi? Caitlin. About, to tell his daughter, his family, what he thought. But, boy, that was kind of an interesting end for that character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had no way out. He had no good outcome.
It was the best thing that could have happened to him, basically.
Yeah.
Which is sad to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, lowlights. You have any lowlights? I don't have any. Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember what it is now. I didn't write it down. But as we were talking, it occurred to me. So if you have any, Kevin, go for it while I think about it.
No, I do not. I am just, I'm overwhelmed with how much I enjoyed this season, and especially this last set of 3.
I remember my low light. As we were doing this, and it's a whole character and a whole little story arc. I think that they did the flashback of Mel way too late in the season. By this point, we didn't need those flashbacks. We didn't really want them to tell us more about these characters, especially since I don't think she had been an interesting character, but not as integral as some of the others. So the flashbacks for Vi and Jinx and even Caitlin were worthwhile. But this one I wasn't so sure about. And definitely I think a low light for me was her mother's character. Coming into this, I wasn't interested. It was like, this is almost cliche storytelling. We got the harsh mother and the daughter who doesn't agree with her, who's more into peace sort of thing. It seemed cliche and stereotyped to me, and I just didn't like it. So in my opinion, that's the only low light, is that I think that trying to go deeper on Mel happened too late. If it happened earlier, I probably would have dug it a lot more. And then the mother was I just wasn't into her.
Yeah, I can see where earlier in the season that would have been better, because then as we watch some of her actions of politically staging things and being there for Jace would have made a little more sense. Well, not made more sense. It would have made it richer for understanding's sake to know where she had come from on that. So yeah, I can see where that timing seems like it's just to try to set up some season 2 stuff.
It definitely felt like set up for season 2, especially. I do agree that the warlord mother is a little over the top. And it's kind of an attempt to be like, okay, Mel's morally questionable, but now meet her horrible mother so that
she
she's not as...
Yeah,
exactly.
Great in comparison.
And, now she's supposedly going to be the protector of Piltover and doesn't want the hex core to fall into the wrong hands, when she's been the one advancing its use, the most and is responsible for shutting down the one person who was wanting to slow their roll on using it. She convinced Jace that Heimerdinger had to go, and, she's been playing all those, board pieces. So it does feel to me, though, like that was set up for season 2. And I'm going to be very curious if we don't find out that the mother had a relationship with Silco or had some back channels to other people in the Undercity going on as well.
For my low light, I would say that the flashback had some cool bits. I liked the bit where I liked how we got to learn how her family came into power. I liked the little scene with I guess she's a princess or something. She didn't look like she was the leader, but daughter of the leadership family, and how Mel wanted to just strip her of everything and banish her, which shows a lot about Mel's character compared to her mother, who just turns around and kills her, just beheads her. I thought that was an interesting little bit of the flashback.
Yeah, brutal, really, really brutal. And that was the only thing that really worked for me about the conversation with the mother, because she clearly recognizes how bad things can go from her own homeland and is trying to insulate them from that happening. But, it's the mom's here. She's the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
So we've talked about favorite characters in our prior episodes. Any characters change, realign, favorite characters at this point?
Even more so than before, Caitlin. I said in the middle batch that she'd become my favorite by that point, and by the end of this one, she's still on my favorite list. And I dig a lot of the other characters as well. Obviously, Jinx, Vi, but Caitlin's still top of the list for me.
Kevin?
Yeah. I think. I certainly on the whole rewatch all of the episodes through have a much stronger appreciation for Caitlin, the growth of her character, what she's done to try to expand on, her view of the world, with the way her parents have always protected her and want to keep her away from anything that could be dangerous or anything outside of what they think she should be doing. So I really appreciated more what she was going through. When she grabbed, Jinx's gun to try to threaten her there at the Mad Tea Party. I was like, yeah, I thought you had learned, but I get why she did it, and she's still lucky to be alive. But I get that. But no, I appreciate her more, certainly through the rewatch. I mean, the sister relationship is the core for me, has been in many other shows, and certainly was here, and just feeling so much more for Jinx. Watching it play out again, in some ways even more painful. I mean, appreciation for some of the things, but it's funny what occurred to me on the rewatch, and definitely the rewatch at the end of the 9th episode again after she kills Silco. I mean, she's what, I don't know, maybe 16 years old at this point, maybe at somewhere in that range.
Somewhere about that.
And at this point in her life, she has had 3 fathers or father figures. They've all died violently, and she killed 2 of them. So in terms of understanding why someone is messed up, there you go.
I don't know if she killed 2 of them, Kevin.
She didn't kill Vander.
She didn't kill Vander.
Her actions at the warehouse were the reason that he was going to die.
But no, I think he was going to die anyway. I think Silco was going to end up killing him anyway. Because Silco beat him down before that even happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was already about dead. So.
Yeah, he had fallen into the vat at that point.
In her mind, that she thinks
she thinks so. Yeah, I totally.
Yeah, she feels guilty. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So Caitlin was a character I liked on the first time I watched. I still like that character. Didn't really change my liking of her at all. I like Echo, which turned out to be, to me, a very minor character the first time I watched it. But on the rewatch, it's like, oh, he might actually have a lot to do. He was instrumental in helping, Vi and Caitlin. He looks like he's actually got sort of another way for the Undercity to go than just being a criminal enterprise. So he's gotten more interesting to me on the rewatch as well. I liked Victor in the first season. I liked recognizing there was more of his story that I had sort of not paid attention to the first time I watched it. But now I'm sort of like, whoa, Victor, you're really going dark. Yeah. So, which was more tragic to me on the first time around. This time around, it's like, oh, you've been on this path. And Jinx, I still have the same amount of sympathy for her journey. And also the recognition that she is sort of a kid with arrested development. So she can't really even make choices beyond her reactionary kinds of choices. When she, and it's even worse now because of whatever the Shimmer did, that Shimmer rehab, I'll call it, did to her, because, she's laying on that table and the doctor is turning into Caitlin. Caitlin's the one who's injecting her. Then sometimes it's Vi with her doing it. So she is really fractured at this point, it's just very sad.
You've mentioned.
Oh, go ahead, Brent.
I was just going to say, Echo is the hope for that city, right? Because him and his forces opposed Silco and they opposed Jinx. So if that city's going to pull themselves out of this, it's going to be him and his people.
Yeah.
Which is why it's nice to see that he's got Heimerdinger to, if any, because he could be the person who can maybe do something with the arcane, the hex tech that Jace and Victor didn't think of.
Maybe he unites both cities because the council's pretty much dead now.
Well,
a number of them, not all of them.
It sure looked like that was what she aimed directly at.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what that impact is if anybody makes it out of that.
Yeah. Because presumably... go ahead.
On one of my rewatches of that last episode, too, and it didn't visually occur to me until the last one I did, again, the Mad Tea Party scene with all that's going on, and we see, again, more examples of Jinx break from reality, every time, especially when the Caitlin and Silco are just yelling at her. Remember Milo, and they're all going to abandon you, and she's trying to deal with it. And we get the visuals, as we have in several other scenes in the season, of her seeing the scratch monsters and such in the thing. Yeah. I really noticed that at one key point in there, when there was just so much going, you could tell she just couldn't deal with it. Visually on screen, you see her character very tiny, and the monsters are huge physically. It's just the way it kind of caught my eye that time through. That yes, she's been dealing with some of this, and she even set some of it up with dolls and other things. But at that moment in her head, she's definitely, that vision of herself, her self-worth is just so small. And it just, again, enforces a lot of what choices she's making and such. And it is another way this show has just done so much with dialogue, visuals, and everything. And it just really caught me and emotionally just made me say, wow, she just sees herself as so small.
Yeah, that was a great callback, Kevin. You were talking about the monsters. That was the scene that Brent mentioned earlier when Vi is talking to Caitlin I think it's the one where they're like spooning on the bed sort of, and she's telling her, I used to create these monsters and sometimes I would go too far and she'd get really scared and then I'd have to go kill the monster. And it's like, well, there's some foreshadowing coming. Because, Jinx, she kind of goes too far and recognizes what she's become, and then she has to sort of flip to reject all that because she's kind of overwhelmed with the shame.
If you think Jinx is a monster, Jinx said that Vi created her.
Yes.
So that goes right to it. Yeah. And by the way, we've been talking about this, and I wanted to make this point, which you guys have made, but I just wanted to state it out loud. Jinx has had a lot of emotional damage. Obviously, she's had a horrible childhood, multiple father figures dying, mother dying, losing her sister, she thought. But she's also genuinely psychotic at this point. She's had a psychotic break at some point. And it was before, I think, the rehabilitation. I think she was having the visions and the hearing voices and going crazy. I mean, remember when she shot the crow? She's psychotic. Sad that it happened, but at some point it did.
And also, that stuck out a little bit to me, too, just reinforcing some of that, is that scene at the end of episode 7 on the bridge, after the fireflies, as I call them, have all gone off, and it's carnage, and she's walking through. There's an enforcer who's still barely alive moving, and she walks past him and just shoots him without a thought, without a look, just complete murder on the spot. Not that her devices didn't, but the difference between something she created that did it and her actually doing it and not even hesitating.
Yeah.
So, whew. And like I said, I've said it. Well, Potter is gone. Yeah. As Potter has left the building. And again, I just am so fascinated with all of the videos on YouTube that I've been watching, the reactors, mental health professionals analyzing the show, the dynamics of sister relationships, of duality, of animation being able to have the same emotional punch as live action. It's just so fascinating to look at the way so many different people have been impacted by this show, this first season, and wanting to talk about it and wanting to share it, especially in YouTube videos and reactors. I mean, like I said, I have watched that last scene hundreds of times at this point between myself and the watches and just all the reactors I've watched. And so many genuine ones. Just, you can tell these people are just gut punch like all of us in the moment and being speechless. For those that don't, edit around a lot of it. And it's great to realize what it can do. I'm excited and terrified for season 2. Now that I've gotten so invested, I'm worried what might be happening.
I'm terrified too. I don't want Caitlin to die.
I think anyone is fair game, but literally anyone.
Well, she's got a big target.
Yes, she does.
Oh, because no doubt.
She's Vi's cupcake.
You mentioned her, Caitlin, grabbing the minigun and kind of not remembering the mistake that was, but Jinx was about to kill her, so she had to. She had no choice.
Yeah.
I can't. No argument there. I mean, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened had, they not had that confrontation and putting the gun down so Silco could reach, where could it have gone? She could have wiped out everybody at that table.
Oh, yeah. I think that was almost her intent at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, she wanted her sister back at the expense of the others she didn't care. She wanted Caitlin gone because Caitlin she saw as something in the way. Silco, that was not what she thought she wanted because Powder may be dead, but Powder's still in her head. You see Powder pop out every once in a while. You see the Powder version of her. She imagines it. So while it's still in her head, obviously she's not in control. But she wanted her sister back, and so she was willing to kill Silco, Caitlin, very much so Caitlin. But then Silco, she mistakenly, in my mind, ungagged him, and he started planting these seeds of she's lying to you, she doesn't really love you anymore, and all this other stuff that just screwed everything up.
Yeah, it's just so much powerful stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot to look at in this story, these characters, what's happening, and it's not predictable at all in terms of, in any other show or most other shows, there would be a moment where she'd come back from the brink. Her sister, Willow and Xander and the yellow crayon. There isn't going to be one of those scenes in this show.
I don't think there will be.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's a very adult show for an animated show. So if you think it's a kid show, it's not. Very adult themes.
No, geez.
Very adult characters.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, you said you had watched a lot of reactors. Is there any other particular things that really struck you with any of those?
No, again, a lot of the folks who did analysis, I just love that folks would take like that scene on the bridge, the Echo and Jinx one, and people doing, 45-minute breakdowns almost, because it's, having different things just strike a chord with someone. Or I saw a couple of reactors who are mental health professionals who kind of were, recommended to watch this show because it's something, they could make some comments on. I saw one of them that, for like the first half of the season, their reactions were good, but it was very measured, really. And by the end, I could tell this woman was emotionally on the edge of the seat. So it was moving from analyzing it to reacting emotionally to it, which was very fascinating to kind of watch develop. So and that, when you can get someone who's looked at any piece of entertainment from one point and then all of a sudden that point shifts because of the way it's presented, that's when you really appreciate some amazing work. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, because I haven't gone down this rabbit hole, but I could get interested in, is there anybody who kind of looks at this from the animation perspective? Because when they have these moments of her psychotic breaks or like that fight between her and Echo, I'm a little bit curious, like if there's some shorthand, because some of those really look like what in other places we see as, nightmares, like the visualization of nightmares or other things. I was just curious if there's sort of a history in animation that's sort of tied to some of their style choices when they flip how things look, because the animation style in that Echo fight with Jinx is quite different from some of the other stuff we see. So I was a little bit curious about that, and because there's so many choices that are being made and how they're visualizing this story, it would probably be really interesting, at least to me, to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Kevin, did you come across any
I do not recall anything, but I wasn't kind of like looking for that, if you know.
Sure.
What I mean.
Yeah, no, that's why I was just curious if
there might have been some there, but I was focusing a little more on the reactors or like the analysis, especially the sister relationship stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't. I do know there were like 45-minute long, I don't want to call them behind the scenes, but kind of like that done by the animation company. Just kind of the story of how this came to be, how things were for quite a while went way off course, and everything looked like it might be shelved, and then they had to do it again, and just the immense amount of work that goes into doing it. But I didn't see any specifically on that one.
Okay. I might just Google around then for it.
Yeah, if I see it from some of the ones, because now I've subscribed to several of the channels, and in the typical YouTube algorithm, almost all the recommended videos are getting Arcane or the warning. That's about my entire feed at this point. So I may see one. I'll let you know if I do.
Please do. So, any final thoughts as we head into season 2 or predictions?
Oh, predictions is a good question. I'm excited for season 2. Predictions. I think Echo and Heimerdinger are going to somehow end up uniting everybody and sort of shepherding in a peace after whatever happens. That's my one prediction, I guess. So I think they're going to survive and they're going to play a key role in kind of rebuilding a new council that, and a new city that encompasses everybody a little more fairly, probably. I think since it doesn't necessarily stick to the video game lore, I don't think anybody who knows the video game lore I don't think the show necessarily needs to stick to that. So there's more predictions, but I'll let you guys. That was my number one prediction, was Heimerdinger and Echo are going to play a big part in the shepherding and the peace after the big thing that's coming.
I'm thinking that somewhere in the first, maybe the beginning of the second episode, by that point, we're going to have a surprise loss of a character. It just seems like, and I have no idea who. I couldn't have a clue, but
not Caitlin.
I know we don't want, but or almost any of them at this point. All of them have got such fascinating bits that I want to learn more about.
It could be Savika. I wouldn't mind.
But no, I think story-wise, something is going to kind of happen there from all of us that have been, speculating on some things or talking about favorite characters. That story-wise, it's going to just demonstrate that, because this whole season and likely the whole 2, it's that whole, what could have been view of things, that something will happen there.
Well, I'm assuming we're going to have similar to the moment when Silco and Jace sort of make their truce and have a plan, that we're going to have something undo it. So I'm assuming we're going to have another, I'll call it Lucy with the football moment between Vi and Jinx.
Yeah, that's a safe bet, I think.
But I also think we'll have a full-out war, right?
Yeah. The trailer hints at that, yeah. I think my other real prediction that I care about is, and I got to be selfish on this one too, being the big shipper I am. Both Caitlin and Vi will live, and they will live happily ever after. There you go.
And talking about that now brings up the speculation on the nature of what this show has been, certainly through season 1. Is it going to be a happy ending, though? Could this show end on a happy note?
It can't end on a cliffhanger. Come on.
It can.
No, I'm not saying it's on a cliffhanger, but I don't know if it could.
It can't
be true to itself and do that.
I don't think it can end on a happy note. It could end on a hopeful note.
I think it's going to end on a tragic and hopeful note. Honestly, I didn't want to say this prediction, but I think Jinx is going to die.
Yeah,
I think she's going to die in her sister's arms too.
Oh God. You're going to have to scrape me off the floor.
That tragic ending is what's going to set up the hopeful ending, I think, of the kind of rebuilding.
Yeah.
La, 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 not listening.
Well, we will find out shortly, because season 2 is coming back in just a couple of days.
Yep.
What are our plans when it comes back? What are we going to do, Wendy?
I think we're going to do more of these. So we'll have another segment of chapters, which obviously will be spoiler filled for whatever we've seen up to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing me too, we're going to have to make sure that we can record for the sets before I watch the next set. There's no way I can watch a next set and not talk about it in the first set or third to two.
Yeah. Too much builds on top.
Too much build,
for sure.
Yeah. And this Saturday drop, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
We'll have to watch them fast if we want to record that weekend.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to stay off social media or something probably, because if anything big happens, it's just going to be too popular.
Yep.
But yeah, it'll be fun to be talking as they're happening and speculating what's next as it's happening.
The season 1 thing was fun.
It was. Hopefully folks will come back for season 2.
I got to give major props to Brent to pushing to say you really should watch this.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it took me, almost 2 years after release to get to it.
Kevin's not an animation guy if you don't listen to our regular podcast.
No.
Not big on animation. I have a track record of 2 successes so far, Ruby and Arcane.
Yep. Yes, you have.
Wait, didn't we have another one?
Probably. I just thought
I've watched an episode of Harley Quinn, but I haven't gotten.
Oh, that is the other one. Yep, that's the other one. Okay. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for listening or watching or both. And I want to thank Kevin and Brent for a lot of fun talking about Arcane. And we will see you again very soon talking about season 2.
Catch you next time.
Take care, all.
If you'd like to contact Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, we offer a variety of feedback options, including email at feedback@tuningintoscifitv.com, voicemail at 706-927-8478, Skype voicemail at Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, or you can visit our website at tuningintoscifitv.com and use the SpeakPipe app or our forums. And finally, you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/tuningintosci-fi or on Facebook at facebook.com/tuningintosci-fi-tv. The theme music for Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV is by Beatnik Turtle, used with permission. You've been listening to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV's Arcane Special, Episode 3, recorded November 5th, 2024.